Good evening, everyone. Chris Durrell here and Dane Chenault. We're here to talk to you guys about some DFS soccer. We got the 2020. I had to ask Dane and confirm on this why it's called the Euro 2020. And turns out it was supposed to be last year. So that's why it's the Euro 2020. I was quite confused and had to mention that before we got going. But I'm the noob here. Dane is the one you guys are going to want to ask questions to. I'm the one that's going to ask the questions that you're all going to want to ask. Anyone that's new to soccer. I've played a little bit throughout the season. Dane has been absolutely crushing it since, well, let's go back to the start of the pandemic last March when we didn't really have anything but LOL, Mexican soccer, and KBO. So good evening, Dane. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and don't
Awesome.
forget the Australian soccer.
Oh, yeah,
I think
the
we had,
Aussies.
we had a couple showdowns there at 5 a.m. or something. That was fun.
That was
But yeah,
insane. But
yeah, it's been a fun tournament so far. Been doing some breakdowns for everybody in the chat, just short 15-minute videos the night before. It's been a fun one so far. So ready to dive into the knockout stage.
yeah, so we're down to the knockout stage, and I believe there is. I'm just on that page now. That gets us down to what, 16 teams? Yeah, down to 16 teams, and we got two games
Mhm.
tomorrow. Starts at noon Eastern, with two games slate between Denmark and Wales and Austria and Italy, who has gone, I believe, undefeated and haven't even been scored on yet. Is that correct?
I think so.
Absolute
Um,
domination.
Yeah, they got a very nice draw for them in the group stage, but um, fine draw as well against Austria, I think. But we'll get into that in a little bit.
Awesome. Well, before we get started, I want to ask you a couple questions about cash games versus GPP. I know we get asked that a lot on the sheet. You have green plays as your core plays, and that's kind of all. So, when in terms of cash games, how do you go about starting your build? It differed from your GPP side of things, like your initial strategy that you're looking into.
Yeah, so cash games in soccer is kind of for me is all about getting the floor guys, whether that's set piece takers or just volume crossers or volume shot takers, or there's some players that kind of do everything for their
Okay.
team. So um, it's all about getting the guys who are going to have some kind of fantasy points without scoring goals. When you get the GPPs, it's a little more about the goal scoring. I mean, you're going to need goals to take down a GPP for sure on most slates, unless you have super low totals or something, and there's maybe one or two goals scored, and one of them ends up being by a sub or something like that, a crazy slate. Then you may not need a bunch of goal scorers, but for the most part, you're going to need guys scoring goals in GPPs and try to do some correlation there as well. Maybe get a set piece taker with a guy who scores a bunch of headers off of those set pieces or things like that. Ways to get the assist with the goal. And as we've kind of tilted in chat a lot, really over the last year, has been the own goals. So that's very annoying. So
Yeah.
we've had a lot of it. Soccer is very, as a whole, I would say, in a lot of leagues, are kind of, if a shot is not on target but gets redirected by the defender on target and scores, then it's going to be an own goal, and the player who maybe created the whole play doesn't even get credit for it. So
Yeah. No
um,
points.
it's a little annoying, but it is what it is. And same thing with assists too. If they have a pass that gets redirected to somebody from a defender, then they're not going to get credit for that. So it's a little annoying, but hey, we have to deal with it. Everybody does too.
Yeah, exactly. We're all playing with the same rules. So let's jump into the sheet here. I'm just gonna bring it up, and the structure of this. Do you just want to go game by game first of all, and just talk about team versus team matchup, and then get into the players, or how do you want to go about doing that?
Yeah. Well, first thing is the format. So now we've been used to that draws have been fine. In the group stage, draws, each team gets a point. But now in the knockout format, there has to be a winner. Somebody has to advance. So we've seen this with the Champions League and the Europa League. Once they get to the knockout stage, if the game is tied after 90 minutes, they're going to play 30 more minutes. 2 15-minute halves is how they do it.
Okay.
Not sudden death, but it's 30 minutes of extra time. If the game is still tied after 30 minutes, then they go to penalty kicks. So kind of the nuance of this stage for DFS is some of these guys are going to be locked in to playing the entire game if it is tied. So you could have some extra upside if you think a game is going to be super close and it ends up being one that goes extra time and even to penalty kicks. Because, and I'll touch on some of those, who they are. But first off is Gareth Bale for Wales. If this goes 120 minutes, I would expect that Wales need him on the pitch for the whole game for penalty kicks mainly. I mean, they're going to want their best player taking penalties, and you have to be in the game to take penalties. So if we do get to the 115th minute, you're going to see some subs for the defenders or something to get some more guys who are better at taking PKs on there. So it's just a little bit, maybe it ups the upside of some of these guys a little bit more. So that's how I'm looking at the knockout format. But yeah, game by game is perfectly fine. Denmark and Wales is the early game tomorrow. So we will not, again, we're not going to have both lineups for both games at once. It's going to be the staggered start that we've kind of got used to. So Denmark and Wales. Denmark, I mean, they've been kind of the story of the tournament with Eriksen going down like the first day.
Yeah.
And they've surprisingly made it out of the group, really, without him. And the fact that they didn't win that day and then they lost. They were 0-2 to start, had no points, and then won against Russia last match to advance. And now they get a decent draw with Wales, and they're minus 115 favorite. In a 2, it's the total in this one is 2. So it is a low total, and I don't know that they should be this big a favorite, to be honest. Wales showed that they have some pieces that can steal a game from teams. Gareth Bale, we know him from Tottenham. When he's playing well, he can really create for his teammates. He has 2 assists through these first 3, and he's not scored yet. So he does a little bit of everything. And like I said, I think if they do make it to extra time, I think they're going to want him in the game if he can make it. But the 2 set piece takers, the floor guys that we're going to want from both of these teams, well, Denmark's a little bit more tricky, but Wales, Daniel James has been very good from a floor perspective, as you can see.
17 combined crosses and corners, eh?
Yeah, so he's taken almost all the corners. I'm sure the ones that Ramsey took were maybe when Daniel James has been off. He did get subbed a couple times. So I'm sure those, but he's pretty much on a monopoly of the set pieces for Wales. Regardless of what you think of how much they control the ball in this game, I think that he is very in play at only 6,300. He's had a lot of really good runs down the side that created a lot of opportunities for Wales. So I kind of like that pairing for GPP, Bale with James. You could pair Kiefer Moore with Daniel James. I don't really like that as much, but he's a big target for set pieces, so that would make sense there. Ben Davies is kind of a cheap fullback. So what I mean by fullback is out on the wing and not centrally located as far as defenders. So he does get forward a little bit more and has a few crosses, as you can see. The rest of Wales is kind of GPP only. Aaron Ramsey is a really good player, and he does have the talent at 5,200 to kind of pay off for GPPs, but really everybody else is only GPP only for me. Denmark is a side that I really do like. Damsgaard has looked very good. He's I think he started both games that since Eriksson went down.
Goal and one.
Yeah, he's not taking sets, but he's really created a lot for Denmark. So I really like him at only 5,500. I expect him to be popular. Martin Braithwaite, again, does a little bit of everything. He's kind of pitched in a little more since Eriksson has been gone. In 7,300, I know he let us down a little bit in the last match that they played, but I really like him against Wales tomorrow. Daniel Wass is their set piece taker without Eriksson. The only problem is he does take some of those short, and he's 5,100, so he's not getting crosses when he does that. So he does scare me a little bit, but he's 5,100, and he has been getting subbed quite a bit as well. That's the only worry that I have with him. He is definitely not safe when you come over to extra time. I don't even know if he'll make it 90, to be honest. But he does have the upside, just being that he's the one taking those corners for Denmark. And you could pair him with either one of the two that I mentioned above there. Mahele, I think is how you say it. I've been butchering names in all these videos. So
he looks like Melee, the pitcher from the Reds. So that's what I'm going with.
Tyler Molly, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that's not even how you say his name. So.
I don't know. But he has been very good. He gets forward a lot, but they have priced him up to 6,100. He's more of the guy that does a lot in open play, so not on set pieces for them, which is really what you like to see, guys who are creating just
away from ball.
Yeah, without having to have a set piece taken for them. So I really like him. If I can fit him, I'm going to.
Before you go ahead, I wanted to ask you a comparison here and see if I'm out to left field. So that's a baseball reference, but I'm going to go back to basketball here. Would that be the same as saying, the players that are like catch and release versus players that create their own shot? Would that be comparable to what you're trying to say with him?
Yeah. I think that's exactly.
Boom, nailed it.
Exactly right. Yeah, you got guys who spot up in the corner and only get there off 3-point makes,
right?
Like Duncan Robinson or something. And then you have guys who are creating off the dribble and doing everything. So, yeah, I would say that. The only thing with soccer is the set pieces can be worth a ton.
Yes.
If you get in a scenario that they're controlling a lot of the match, which I do expect them to have more possession than Wales. So they could, it's just however the ball bounces, honestly. If they have a foul that Wass takes a set piece, or it gets knocked out for a corner. That's kind of how I look at it.
Awesome.
The last piece I'll mention in that game is at goalie. We're going to have to play somebody. It's tough on these 2-game slates. But Danny Ward would be actually the one that I would choose here. 4,300, 900 cheaper than Schmeichel, is pretty interesting. Even if I do expect Denmark to win, honestly, I think Danny Ward is in play just for his save upside. That's something that we target quite a bit. I know me and you have talked about it a lot back in EPL, is playing the cheap goalie, taking
give
his
up one
saves,
or two.
And if he gives up one or two, you're fine. You're not really playing those for a clean sheet. So, like you can see there, 5 saves in the last 2
Still got
games,
an 8.4.
and look where he's getting. And I know he got a clean sheet against Turkey, so that he crushed there and the win. But against Italy, he only gave up 1 against maybe the best team in the tournament. And he got to 8 fantasy points. If he gets to 8 fantasy points, you're probably going to need him for the savings that he allows you to get some of these higher price pieces for Italy tomorrow, is how I look at it. Schmeichel, he's fine.
Just doesn't get enough shot volume.
Yeah, I don't know that he's going to get enough. He could.
More expensive, and he's not going to face as many. The chances of him not as facing as many shots. So that totally
Right.
makes sense, especially in a close game, in terms of odds of who could win, even though Wales is an underdog here. It's expected to be a low scoring game. It could be 1-0 or 2-1 kind of thing. And like we said, if you can get that 6 to 8 points out of your cheapest goalie, especially on a smaller slate, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think if you're playing Schmeichel, it's honestly, I'm not even going to consider him, to be honest. But if you are playing him, it's only because of the uh, win and clean sheet upside that you could
Mm-hmm.
pair with a defender.
Yep.
But really, if you're up in the 5Ks, why not just pay up for Donnarumma, or however you say it, for
Yeah.
Italy, because he has a lot more clean sheet upside. I know he's not going to see the shots either. That's the problem with him. We've seen it time and time again in these matches. I know they've not gave up a goal all tournament, but it could happen. Just one bounce of the ball, and he is absolutely done.
Yep.
If he gets 1-1-0, he's got 2 saves in 3 matches. If he gets 1 save tomorrow and gives up a goal, he has 0 fantasy
Yeah, I was
points. So
gonna say that's a waste of money.
unless they win and he gets the win, which probably would, but I mean, he's only at 5 there, and he's 5,700. That is super high priced. So GPP only, definitely for me. The last thing I'll say about the paying up for defense or for goalie is with these knockout rounds. The thing that, and I've heard it around the industry misquoted, actually, if it goes to penalty kicks, they cannot get a win. There is no
Okay.
win given to somebody who does not have the winning team after extra time. So if it goes to
Okay.
penalty kicks,
Neither
neither
goalie gets to
goalie
win.
gets a win. So I had that happen in the Europa final when it went to penalty kicks in the showdown. I didn't have the goalie, but I think I was leading the 180 GPP, and I was worried that the guy behind me had the goalie for I can't remember which team it was, but I was worried that if they won, he was going to beat me. And actually, that he didn't, because he didn't get the win. They still do get the saves, I believe. Yeah, they get the saves in the shootout, and they don't get anything against them if they give up a goal in the shootout.
Oh,
But
okay.
it kind of takes away some of the upside if it does get to that point.
Okay. Awesome. So let's transition over to the season. We've been talking about Italy for a while. They haven't given up a goal yet. They've been kind of the class of the tournament. What's your first thoughts, I guess, on the Austria versus Italy match here?
Yeah, so Italy minus 205 favorite, and this is a 2.25 total. So not much higher, but it is higher. So really, the odds makers are not expecting Austria to score. I
Yeah.
don't know that anybody is, but Lorenzo Insigne is 10-9, very high price, but he is going to be taking sets for them. He will split a couple with Berardi, but Insigne is the main taker. It's kind of just where the set piece is coming from,
Hmm.
depending on who takes it. So Insigne is definitely my favorite play. My favorite spend up on the slate will be him. I mean, he's going to be popular, but 10-9 I know is steep, but he's the biggest favorite. He's going to probably get something on the score sheet tomorrow. Immobile is the GPP option. He has tons of goal upside. Scored in both the matches he played. He did not play. A lot of them didn't play the third group match because it was kind of locked up. But Immobile, 10 shots in the first 2 games. That's something we kind of weren't used to seeing from him in the past, was having a shot floor. He was a little more goal dependent, but 6 and 4 shots will do it for you. That creates a floor. He will not have set pieces, but he has tons of goal upside. I do expect him to be popular in tournaments,
He
probably
has
not
the
in
best.
cash games.
He has the best odds to score as well. Anytime goal plus
Yeah.
120. That is crazy high odds.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's he's a great play for tournaments, but 10-6 is going to be expensive.
Tough to
It's going to be
build around.
Tough to get Immobile with Insigne or one of the other top two. So it's going to be tough to do that. We'll see if we can. The rest of Italy, those top three are all great plays, but Insigne is the only one that I would prioritize from a main lineup perspective for me, unless you're doing a single entry GPP and you could consider Immobile. The rest of that team, Locatelli, I think he scored both of those goals in the last match that he played. So he definitely has upside. He's 6,100. Jorginho, I think, is on penalty kicks for them still. 4,300. That gives a little bit of upside for him. He's more of a central midfielder that's not going to do a ton. But if he takes a PK, he can get there for sure at 4,300. Barella, I've been on him a couple times. He does have the assist. He's not done quite as much as Locatelli, to be honest. So I would rank Locatelli first from those midfielders. Spinazzola is expensive, 5,800. You could pair him with Donnarumma. He does get forward the most of those fullbacks. Di Lorenzo is the other one. So he would be my favorite of the Italy fullbacks.
I like that floor.
Oh, yeah. The center backs for Italy are a little tough. I'm not sure if we're going to see Chiellini. I think he's going to be out tomorrow. So Bonucci and Acerbi is who I'm seeing projected in. If the problem with Acerbi is he's 4,800 for a center back, so I'm not going there. And Bonucci is fine if you need a punt, 3,500. I think maybe we can find another one that's a little better than him, like Ben Davies. I would rather have Ben Davies at defender, especially if I'm playing Ward. You could potentially pair them. I know you're not necessarily needing a clean sheet for Danny Ward to get there, but just having that upside if it did happen with Ben Davies. On the other side for Austria, they're not going to have much possession. They're mostly GPP only. The only guy that you could even consider for cash or single entry, I think, would be David Alaba, and that comes with a caveat. So the first couple matches, we've seen him play as a center back in the very back three for them, which is very, very annoying because he has almost no upside to get forward and cross. He takes all set pieces for them. So he no matter where he's located. So he does still have a little bit of upside just from the set pieces, but tomorrow that's diminished in this matchup because how many are they really going to have? The thing to watch with him, last match against Ukraine, we did see him play forward as a fullback and be able to get forward and cross in open play. 14 crosses, you can see clearly that he was doing that. They did control that game, though. But if Andreas Ulmer is in, that kind of tells you that Alaba is going to be in the back three. So that's going to be something we're going to watch. I don't even know if I can and that's the second game. That's the problem with him. And he's 6,900. So if he's in the back three, you're not paying that. That would be a horrible play, in my opinion, if you pay 6,900 for a guy in the back three against Italy, who's not.
It'd be like 52 to 55, right?
Do what?
52 to 55 if he was kind of back would be like a fair price, mid 5K, not 69.
Yeah, I mean, even then in this matchup, it would still be tough. I know he has all the set.
Oh, looks like we lost Dane there. How would you rank James, Alaba, and Damsgaard? Just from talking to him, Tim, I'm pretty sure. And there he's back. I'm going to add him here in just a second. Before he comes back on, though, I'm going to kind of see if I can rank how he would rank those guys: James, Alaba, and Damsgaard. I'm going to say Dane says Alaba, James, Damsgaard. Go, Dane.
I'm not actually no. So like I was saying with Alaba, I honestly don't even know if I can play him because I'm so worried about him being in the back three and the fact
Oh
that
yeah, right.
they're not going to have the position or they're not going to have possession. Sorry,
Right.
um,
Right.
so much that that's what he needs to get there, especially in the back three. So I would actually rank them from a single entry in cash: Daniel James first, Damsgaard second, and then Alba. Damsgaard and James are very close. I think you could potentially play both.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can definitely do that in your midfield spots.
55 and 63 is pretty good mid,
Yeah.
balanced lineup kind of price, especially for cash, like you said.
Yeah, so plug in Damsgaard, James, and Danny Ward and see where we're at there.
Damsgaard, Ward, and
Yeah.
James. Just with that core right
And Insigne,
there,
because he's
6,780.
yeah. And plug in Insigne at forward. I think
Let's see if
that's
I can.
yeah.
5750 is not bad at all.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm looking to start, to be honest. So two of those guys is kind of where I'm wanting to go. Daniel Wass is the other guy that I'm having a little trouble with. So if you plug, I don't know, maybe I try to build tonight with Mahale or however we want to say it. And if I need that extra 1,000, maybe I go up or go down. But plug in Mahale and see where we're at there. I
Oh
think we
boy.
still have plenty.
Okay, give me a spell in here.
M-A-E.
Oh, right there. Yeah. Tyler Pele. Got it.
Yeah,
There we
so
go.
that gives you 5,600 for 3 spots. It's kind of then you got that second forward is the toughest part. I think the plays there would be either Gareth Bale, Martin Braithwaite. I don't know that we can get to Immobile. That's the problem there. So I think I kind of see where I want to try to go. I think Braithwaite would be my second forward if I can, in a best case scenario.
That still leaves you
Because he
48
is
for
a
a D
1,000.
utility.
Do what?
That leaves you 4,800 if you throw Braithwaite in there. That's pretty good for a D in utility.
More than doable.
Yep.
With some of the plays that I have highlighted. But,
yes, for sure.
I think that's kind of the core that I'm going for, to be honest. What we have right there, and like I said, Mahale and Wass are kind of toss ups. So if we can get more with Wass, I think that's a fine play when he's going to be taking the set pieces there.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm looking
awesome.
at the slate right now. That's kind of the core that I'm looking at for my main lineup. GPP, I mean, you can go kind of anywhere if you want to stack Denmark, if you want to stack Wales, like I said, Daniel James and Bale. In GPPs, it's a little more about scripting the score lines too. I mean, if you're playing for a 2-1 game in the first one and 2-0 in the second one or something, that's kind of how I look at it before I build the team. I'm kind of like, who do I think wins and what do I think the scores are? And that's kind of where I go from there. If I think it's 2-1 Denmark, I think you can still play Ward because, like we talked about, it's going to get you a little bit more upside in other spots. And if we think Italy puts up 2-0 or something like that, I think you can definitely get there with kind of a mix of the first game and then a little piece of Italy later.
Yep. Love it a lot. Awesome. Well, that we kind of went over both games there: top plays, cash game versus GPP, overall strategy, the structure of it. If anyone, you guys got questions, if you're watching this in the morning before the games, if you've got questions, definitely hit us up, especially Dane. I'm the noob here. You probably don't want my advice first thing in the morning, but I did learn a ton from you tonight, and I have been following for a while. So I'm glad we did this. We're going to be doing this more in the future for other sports as well. But if you got questions, hit us up in chat. That is the Rotor Pros chat we got open till the end of the month here. We've got the Patreon Slack chat. It is open till the end of July. And then we've started rolling over into Discord right now. So if you're in there as well, hit us up in there. We will be getting some winning lineups out in the morning. Let's build together, and let's go get some green screens. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And you guys have a great night.
Good luck, everybody.